The latest issue of People features exclusive details on the fitness guru's shocking disappearance from the public eye. Joining us now with the real story on what happened to Simmons is People editor Liz McNeil. Good morning, Liz. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Let's dive right into this. Nearly 3 years ago, Richard stepped away from the public spotlight with really little explanation. People have kind of taken note. One of the few people he still regularly keeps in touch with is his brother, Lenny. What did Lenny tell you about his brother's decision and how he's living his life today?
Lenny, his brother, says this is completely Richard's choice. He said that Richard wanted to live a quiet life, that frankly he was a little tired. That pace that he had kept up for over 40 years, he said was absolutely exhausting. And he really made it clear that Richard is fine physically and that he has decided to live quietly and doesn't really leave the house.
Sure. And this is something that, look, people hear this and it's like, oh, we talked about this a while ago. Well, the reason, or one of the reasons that this is sort of perked back up to being talked about in the public attention is because of the popularity of a podcast, Missing Richard Simmons. We actually have a clip from the most recent episode. Let's listen to this and we'll talk about it.
I was a very obese person, and Richard helped me find my happy person. I will always love him.
He was the rock star to many of these people.
So obviously the whole podcast is centering around what's going on with Richard Simmons. It's hosted and was created by former Daily Show producer Dan Taberski. He's determined to find out what really happened to his friend Richard. Has Richard listened to the podcast at all, and what does his inner circle think of it?
The people in his inner circle say Richard has not listened to the podcast, but that he is aware of it.
Okay.
They really think that a lot of the claims in the podcast are sensational. They feel like it's raised a lot of, sensational sort of claims that are unfounded.
Okay.
They insist that this is Richard's decision to live a quiet life. And that he really is fine physically.
Now, it's interesting, Richard declined to be photographed or interviewed for this article, but his manager, Michael Catalano, did talk to People. What did his manager say about Richard's life today?
Richard said, Richard lives, again, a very private and quiet life. He saw him a week ago.
Okay.
He said that Richard doesn't really look that different, that he's still trim, he hasn't gained weight, he has a beard, he is perhaps a little bit more gray. And Catalano insists that a lot of these sensational claims that he's transitioning into a woman, that he's gained weight, that they are all completely unfounded.
Okay, so that was my next question, because there have been those things. People say he's overweight, maybe there's a health issue, transitioning to female. He says unfounded.
Absolutely, and he said that the one thing you have to remember is that this man kept up an incredible pace for 40 years and that he really just wanted some time to himself.
Okay, now his housekeeper, Teresa has been accused by some of manipulating or confining Richard Simmons. Any truth to those claims at all?
What Michael Catalano says and his brother says is that Teresa is pretty much his live-in housekeeper, but that she is completely loyal to him, cooks for him, takes care of him, answers the phone, but that there's no motive and that she certainly isn't keeping him hostage.
Those closest to him certainly continue to say everything's fine, yet we still haven't seen or heard from him. It's fascinating because he has traditionally been such a public person and has seemingly loved being on camera, being in the spotlight. For him to go completely sort of into the shadows seems unlike him. But could this have been his plan all along?
You know, it's an interesting question, and it's interesting because many of the people that I spoke to used the word seclusion, which is an interesting word, that this was his choice. But there was an interesting quote that he gave us in 1981 for our cover story when he said, "The day I don't love this anymore, I'll walk away." And you can't help but think that that might be part of his decision.
Fascinating stuff. Liz McNeil, thank you so much for all the information. Guys, for even more on Richard Simmons, be sure to pick up the latest issue of People on newsstands everywhere Friday.
Hey YouTube! Don't forget to like this video and leave a comment if you enjoyed it. And for more People Now, click on the subscribe button down here.
And check out more great video right now by clicking on one of these links.